Hello, Barmy Badger Army.
Hey, Badger Army.
Welcome to On the Bench once again with myself, the Badger, and Mr. Nick.
Well, hello there.
Indeed. Today we're going to be talking about World Mental Health Day and last night's Mariah Carey performance, which is going to be very interesting to talk about. So, Nick, you know a lot about World Mental Health Day, so I'm going to be educated in this. So, you tell me a little bit about it.
Well, well, the thing with a lot of these days, as such, is they're just designed to try and bring more awareness to to things, and mental health is one of those things. It's been in the news a lot lately.
Yes, indeed, it has.
But the actual amount of funding of treatments and stuff hasn't actually gone up that much.
Really?
I think
you'd think it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
With the mass explosion of youth and everyone being a bit more open. You know, it's okay to not be okay and all that sort of thing. You think that the money would grow with the expansion of everyone being a bit more honest with it.
A lot of it's we've seen a lot more. We've seen a lot of the not-for-profit organisations.
That's right. That's good.
Such as Mind, and among others, become more prolific. Which
that's good.
Yeah, it's
being a
been
bit more
great to see.
open about the situation. I would say problem, but that's not the right word.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that people are becoming more aware of. You know, and that's great to see. I think
that's very good.
I mean, we back in the day. We both grew up with with conditions that we weren't really diagnosed with until later in life.
This is true. The 1980s was a very strange time period with that sort of thing. You know, I had bad asthma as a child, and at one point I could barely walk. And I just think, you know, a lot of the stuff that happened then. You know, if I had modern medicine, I would have been a lot better, a lot quicker. You know?
Yeah, I mean, asthma was it was publicised quite a lot. People were just like, can you run long if you run long distances, will you drop dead? That's the kind of thing that I think people came up with back then.
Yeah, it's all very non-PC now.
But one thing you said was that you also had severe anxiety, which, you know, I mean, this kind of like notion that it could actually be a health condition.
This is
was
true.
Unheard of. And personally, I grew up with Asperger's syndrome, although I wasn't formally diagnosed until 3 years ago in my mid-30s.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So what, going on with it, what actually drove you to get yourself diagnosed? I don't really like that word, but go on.
Reading about it, and I used to participate on a lot of forums where they talk about game shows and stuff, and I found out a lot of people on those forums were on the autistic spectrum. Okay. And the more I read into it, and I started looking it up, and the more I read into it, the more I thought, you know, is this me? You know, I did that and that and that. You know, a lot of it I recognised. And the thing is, as a child, I never felt properly in control of myself.
Really?
You know, yeah. I would, if someone did something, if someone like moved something, I'd go ape at them. Somebody that I went to school with once told me that apparently he trod on my bag at one point, and I went ape. And I told the teacher, and apparently she kept him in.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a random thing, isn't it?
That's just completely. But it's just like every so often you'll go nuts at someone, but it's almost like someone else was.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean, unfortunately, I still have kind of like autism meltdowns now.
Right. Okay.
Often when I miss trains and stuff like that. You know,
which we've experienced a few times.
Yeah, and it's like I can vary from being able to do talks like this quite easily, you know, to having train station staff afraid to approach me because I'm sort of sitting in a corner screaming.
Right. Well, that's
not a good look. It's up there with peeling a banana and picking up a frisbee, and that it's impossible to look cool while having a meltdown.
And wearing a Christmas jumper. But it's just one of these things where I think, you know, like you were saying, but then forearmed is forewarned and all that sort of thing. So I think, you know, World Mental Health Day, getting back on point, is very important because obviously you're then teaching or sort of, you know, learning about the situations that could happen, and then you're more able to deal with them. I think that's very interesting.
Absolutely. I think it's just sort of like encouraging people to be more open about it,
which can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think the trouble that we have is that things like depression and anxiety. You know,
labels.
One of the things people say is, well, everyone gets anxious, everyone gets depressed, but it's actually there's a difference between, you know, being a bit unhappy or a bit nervous and actually having depression and anxiety. You know, it's a difficult thing to manage, and also it's a difficult thing for professionals to be able to work with, you know, which is, you know, and that's another good thing is why we have these. You know, we're kind of thinking, you know, how can we you know, how do we manage ourselves? How do we know when actually there's more to it than just being just reacting to someone? I mean, I remember hearing a talk by someone saying, you know, you get something called reactive depression, which is a reaction to a situation, like if somebody leaves you, somebody dies, but afterwards, but kind of like if you kind of feel after a long period of time, it becomes what's known as a chemical depression. You know, and that's when the actual condition comes in. That's when you can be prescribed antidepressants.
So it's obviously interesting. You want to stop yourself or try to get advice and guidance and help before it gets to the chemical stage, I guess. Okay, so that's a good bit of interesting advice there, Nick. And thanks for the chat about World Mental Health Day.
Indeed, I think
it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's just, and the other thing that I would say is that people deal with it, and people find ways to, if not cure it, then get through it in different ways. You know, it's not as simple as going for a walk,
it's true.
Doing yoga, but it's also not as simple as just being prescribed some random medication. No, you know, I mean,
you don't want to go down that route unless you have to.
Lots of us with conditions do take medication and find it more effective than taking a walk in the park.
Well, this is very true.
Which is something that people need, which I think is something that, and I think what we need to do is we need to realise that people can deal with it and people respond to it in different ways. You know, and I think you know, getting to know yourself and you know what sets you off, what triggers you. That's triggered in the actual medical sense. Not triggered as in slightly offended. And you know what it's all about, kind of like what works for you.
That's true.
The more awareness we can give to people who talk about what, you know, get people to think about and talk about what works for them, the better.
Definitely. And then we're going to talk about Mariah Carey quickly.
Mariah Carey standing completely still during an awards performance. Now, I often feel like we shouldn't be too hard on Mariah Carey because she has actually had mental health issues in the past.
Yes, this is very true.
We probably shouldn't be too hard on her for this.
This is true, but it's very tempting to roast her to oblivion because she has been deemed as lazy on Twitter. It was a lazy performance.
Like just standing there while all these naked men danced around her.
I know, it's very random. I can sort of see why she would pitch that as a good idea. It's like, oh yes, I'm nonchalant to them and they're all sort of going for me, but I'm not interested. That's the sort of vibe that it could have been. Like a very kooky performance.
I mean, she's in her late 40s now. People
Is
forget.
she? I thought she was older than that, to be honest.
No, I think, I think early 70s she was born. Her first hit single was in the early 90s. I don't think
she's quite early 70s, Nick. She's
born in the early 70s. Badger,
I was going to say she's good for her age.
Yes, there's no denying that. But yeah, I mean, those of you who've seen her New Year's Eve performance,
yes, this is very true.
A couple of years back. Oh my goodness,
terrible.
Does seem just
atrocious. Well, I remember, you know, she's always been that sort of person where I think she's made her money now, and she just feels that she has to every now and again perform, you know, because. Like Michael Bublé, you know, defrost at Christmas.
Yeah, she did once. Apparently, she was once quoted as saying she doesn't do stairs.
Really?
Yeah, on a performance that for a music performance once they asked her to walk down some stairs, and apparently her reply was, "I don't do stairs."
What?
So, well, to be honest with you, I think maybe we should be glad that she's still out there. She's still performing. You know.
I mean, but yeah, no, it's definitely the sort of thing I always associate Mariah Carey with Christmas and around this time of year.
Yeah, she gets a lot of her Christmas song is still probably one of the most played Christmas songs
of all
give
time.
Give it a couple of months, and it'll be all you hear.
This is very true. That and The Darkness.
Yeah.
You know.
Although it's and Slade.
And Slade.
Let's not dwell too much on that now. Remember, Halloween hasn't happened yet at the time of
This is
filming.
true. Yes, this is true. It's not quite Christmas, guys.
Indeed.
It's nearly Christmas.
I know, but we'll have Halloween first, so let's focus on that.
And fireworks.
And fireworks, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll do. So that's been going on. Of course, during the weekend we had Khabib versus McGregor,
which was very bizarre.
All we can say about that is
it was like a WWE showdown.
Remember how in WWE they basically satirise that kind of stuff because they're thinking no one would do something that daft in real life.
And that is actually what happens. You know, they make it outlandish on purpose that they have the match and then they have the after brawl where they're all beating each other up at the end of it. And it's meant to be over the top. And it's so weird that reality has now bled, you know, and fiction has now bled into reality. It's so strange.
Yeah, so just remember, kids, be nice.
Be nice.
Be
and
nice.
Don't try this at home like WWE.
Do not try that at home. Don't try what happens in the ring and don't try what happens out of the ring.
Unless you're with a professional instructor learning properly.
Yes, although I think even your professional instructor would be a little bit taken aback if you tried to do that.
Yeah, no cage brawls.
No cage brawls. Yeah, and slagging each other off beforehand. Just oh my goodness.
That must have definitely exacerbated the situation. Well,
yeah.
Thank you for joining me once again, Nick. It's been really fun once again to squeeze in another on the bench.
Indeed. Stay safe in body and mind, people.
Most definitely, and have a great day, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. And we'll see you next time, and hopefully I'll be streaming later on. Game to be announced. See you later on, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye, guys.